What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. This is our reaction show where we are going to break down what we saw as the Hounds drew 1-1 with Loudoun United. I am Mike. Joining me for this one is Steve and Josh. Steve, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. Mostly a great weekend so far. We all got to hang out on Friday, which was really cool to have all of the current Mongols crew together at once. I don't think in the time I've been with the pod, we've ever been able to get everybody together. So that was a lot of fun to just have everybody there and have dinner. I really liked that. And then hanging out with Justin and Laura Ellen at the game yesterday as well. It's always great when they're in town and we get to hang out and talk soccer without texting. Right. So it's a lot of fun and getting both of them in the conversation as well. Just great. So pretty relaxing day today. Bought some new woodworking tools today. So yeah.
What'd you get?
A marking knife and a marking gauge. So like you can like scribe a line along the edge a certain distance away from the edge. So going to Rockler is really dangerous.
Yes. I get the Rockler catalog and I've had to like push it aside every time it comes in because it is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So Josh, how about you, man? What's new?
Good. Yeah. Also enjoyed hanging out with everyone on Friday. I thought it was hilarious that like 90% of us did not go to the game, but we all hung out around the game, the Liverpool game.
Yeah.
Mondo went, but in his defense, he was going with a friend. So I won't hold it against him. But everyone else in the Mongols crew, we all just kind of hung out, didn't go to the game, as it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is funny because, we've been doing this show for almost 10 years now, and it feels like every time we get together, at least on these shows, it almost is like business, where it's just like, okay, like we know we're going to get together, we're going to talk about the Hounds and all of that. And most of the time when we get together, it's at Hounds games. So we still feel like, okay, like let's talk about the Hounds. This was one rare instance where it's like, let's just hang out and talk about like anything. Like it doesn't have to be the Hounds. And that was really nice. So yeah, that was a good time. Are you guys watching the Olympics at all? Do we care about the Olympics?
I'm watching like women's soccer, men's soccer. I'll put it on. So on Peacock, they have like this thing where it's like gold zone instead of goal zone. And they kind of just go around to all the different events and just, randomly talk about it. We've been like having that on in the background. And every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I'm really into that one storyline that they're talking about. And then I'll just flip over to that actual event instead of like having them cut away from it constantly. So that's been fun. But honestly, overall, it's been kind of boring this year. I don't know what it is. I don't know if nothing's changed. I just have not been as engaged with it.
Steve, we were talking about this a little bit the other night where it felt like when we were growing up, there was more to it. Like it felt like the women's gymnastic team and the men's basketball dream team. And it just, I don't know. It feels like it's lost its luster a little bit. I mean, do you still feel that way?
Yeah. I mean, so a friend of mine had brought that up to me last week, and kind of her perspective was like when we were younger, like think of all the Olympians from both summer and winter Olympics that you could name now from when we were kids growing up. Right. And I don't know, like, sure, I know some of the soccer players, but I couldn't even tell you who's on the men's Olympic soccer team. I think Brendan Aronson is, or was it Paxton Aronson? I don't know. One of the Aronson boys is on it. And I only know that because I saw a headline, right? But it's like Simone Biles, who else? I really don't know. And I think that's kind of the big difference. And I guess I just wonder if a big part of that is there's so many other ways to engage with media now that, I mean, the Olympics were a big thing that everybody was watching growing up. No, I mean, I'm not super excited about the Olympics per se. And I don't currently have Peacock. So I'm like jumping on the website and putting it in a private browser where I get like 30 minutes before then I have to open a new private browser to watch. But when I do have it on, I do find it pretty much fascinating most of the time, right? Like, I was watching a little bit of the women's mountain biking this morning, and then the windsurfing skiff, or I think it was called. And it's just like watching these guys do what they're doing is a lot of fun, right? And it's just like, I mean, they're like hanging off the side of these little sailboats, basically parallel to the water. And that's cool to watch, but I don't care. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Storylines. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We need to have good storylines. And I feel like that's one thing that I'm not getting from the coverage right now is like good storylines or like little packages about like each individual person or like usually they would like produce these things, and maybe it's because budgets aren't the same as they used to be and people aren't watching these channels as much as they used to, so they can't like spend the money on these packages. But yeah, we've always said about the Hounds as well, like, you know, you need to get people invested, you need to humanize it, and you need to give people a storyline to follow. And if you don't have that, it's just watching someone who's really good at, you know, kicking a ball, or in this case, you know, sailing a boat. It's like, okay, cool. Like it is cool to watch, but there's nothing investing me into that.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a meme a few times. It's like, let's have like a totally normal person compete first, just to see how hard some of these things are, right? Like, I think like they'll never do it, but that would kind of be cool, like to watch like two, like, yeah, Josh, you and I, let's go windsurfing on a skiff and see what happens. It would be catastrophic, right?
I'd be sick. I'm good.
It'd be really bad, right? But then then you see these guys doing that, and you're like, wow, that is actually pretty incredible. And I think that, but yeah, that's like one way to make the stories, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But I'd love to see it.
The storyline bit is a really interesting angle. And I will say, we talked about this a little bit. I was on a call with the president of USL Championship and USL League One. And that was one of the things they were talking about was how do we produce more storylines as it relates to the players and the teams to get people more engaged. And I think that's that's an area where we can sort of step in and hopefully help to provide some of that. So we do the interviews and the insider show where we try to talk to the players. But if anybody listening or anybody watching has any ideas for other types of storylines that you'd like to see about the players, please let us know. And this is sort of the moment where I will plug our 2024 survey, which I know I was plugging all last week. And I know you guys were probably sharing at the game this weekend. But this week will sort of be your last chance to go and take that survey. 5 people out of everyone that applied, we're going to send a free Mongols hat. So that's just our little way of saying thank you. But really, the most important part is that is your opportunity to tell us what you think and if you have any ideas. And we sincerely take that stuff and we take it to heart, and we're going to use that information to make changes to the show and hopefully provide stuff that you guys are interested in. So I definitely think storylines is one of those things that absolutely engages people. It engages me. And so I want to see more of that, and I want to have more conversations and do that kind of thing. So yeah, that'll sort of be my hard twist into let's talk about this game. So the Hounds, the last game of sort of a 4-game homestead before we have to hit the road, they draw 1-1 to Loudoun. Got the first goal off of a pen. Robbie took the pen and then gave up a goal later in the game to basically let the additional 2 points slip away. Guys, you were there. It sounds like it was quite the spectacle in terms of touch a truck and superstars and sort of everything else. Give me a takeaway. Steve, give me a takeaway from this game.
Good crowd energy, I think, throughout most of the night. I don't get the big thing about the superstars, but people love it. I mean, when they were doing their halftime thing, there's a couple that were probably early 20s or something like that, kind of right over my shoulder. And they just thought it was one of the funniest things that they had ever seen. And like, they were reacting so strongly to it. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sure it's really difficult, but that's a lot of fun to see other people really enjoy something. I think even more fun than what Superstars was doing was listening to this couple, right? Like, it was a blast.
Lots of kids this time around. So this was the kids night thing. I think they did a promotion where it's like you got a ticket and then you got a ticket for your kids for free or something like that. I don't know if it was free, but I don't have kids. I don't know. But the promotion really worked, and there were tons of little kids there. I actually thought the Superstars were a step down this year compared to last year. Much more entertaining last year, in my opinion. But that seemed to be consensus with the Steel Army as well. But overall, you're right. The atmosphere was really good. Did not really see much with the touch a truck thing. Like I saw 3 trucks in the tailgate zone, although there was a moment where I kind of got freaked out because one of them was a SWAT, Pittsburgh SWAT truck, and like it like rolls by the Steel Army, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? There's a SWAT vehicle. Oh, like, oh yeah, that's a truck. Okay, never mind. We're all good.
That's funny. Yeah, as it relates to the Superstars, this will be my plug for Houndsy. They always do a good job of sort of breaking down what happens with the Superstars every single year. It's one of my favorite episodes of theirs every year. So make sure that you listen to Houndsy this week, because I'm sure that Josh, or not Josh, Dan and the crew will help break that down. Josh, sometimes you're on there. You just like pop in, but yeah. Give me your thoughts, overall on this game. Let's get into the game specifically. Josh, I'll start with you since I went to you second on the atmosphere. Something from the game.
So one issue, I really wanted to see this from run of play, a goal from run of play, and we did not get that this game. But with that said, getting the PK, drawing the PK, there was some shouts that it was a little bit soft of a PK call, but I don't know. I actually rewatching the replay, and I was over on that side of the field when the PK happened, or when the actual foul happened, and I thought it was a pretty decent call. Definitely got hip checked. He fell over. That's what you got to do. Like you can't hip check someone in the box, or you're going to draw a foul, and that's exactly what happened. So that was nice. But overall, yeah, my disappointment was not getting a goal from run of play. We did have plenty of chances, though. I thought there was some really quality chances, even. So we're probably unlucky to not get 3 points out of this game, because overall I thought we were the better team, even if we were not firing on all cylinders this whole game.
Steve, do you agree?
I in some ways, but then there's also a part of me that says I think we were inconsistent throughout the game. So we had some great opportunities, but then we gave up some really good opportunities to Loudoun as well. And so this is one of those games that I look at that this game feels like it could have been a 3-1 win for either team. And instead it was a 1-1 draw. I think the big thing for me is looking at this game, it's just one of those moments where I still look at who's on the field and who's playing and have questions of transitioning players out of the positions they've played for most of their lives, and putting them into other positions and expecting that to just always be really strong and good. I think it can work a lot of times really well, right? I mean, I think Langston did not have his best game, but I don't think that that's indicative of him not being able to do that position well. I think we've seen him do it really well throughout a lot of this season. You look at somebody like Junior being converted to a wing back and excelling at it most of the time. I think, though, that you also then see somebody like Biasi who just didn't step up when he should have stepped up, and that led to Loudoun's goal. And so it's those types of little inconsistencies for me that get a little frustrating to watch, and see us giving up a goal. And that's not even to say, like, I mean, I think Dick should have been better on that as well, but just kind of like just not organized, and one of those times where it seemed like players just not quite all the time knowing how to play their position as well as someone who's played it a lot more.
That's fair. Josh, to your point about sort of scoring from the run of play, this is sort of a bigger question that I have as it relates to sort of where we go from here. We obviously went on a stretch of 8 games where we only scored 1 goal, and then we scored 8 goals over the course of 2 games, but it went 5 goals, 3 goals, and now we get 1 goal in this game, and it's off of a pen. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, how much of that do we equate to the competition, where Loudoun like I said, in sort of the preview, they're kind of streaky. They have moments where they're beating Tampa, but then they're drawing to Miami. You compare that to a team like Oakland that was flying high and the best team when we faced them, and we totally buried them. So the fact that we went from scoring in bunches to scoring a little bit less to now only getting a goal off a pen, and yes, we had other chances, it just didn't go in. Josh, are you at all concerned about not capitalizing on our opportunities more in this game and what that could potentially mean for Sacramento and Detroit over the next week?
For sure. I mean, this is a situation where I think that this team has, turned a corner. I do feel like we're still on the right path, but these near misses, these chances that just aren't hitting the mark. There were a couple that the keeper actually saved. That was, really good chances, but overall, just have to actually hone those in and start at least testing the keeper more often than what we're doing. This was probably the sequential, the games that we just had, the sequence of events of them, like having them in the order we had them in. I thought this was a good ramp, especially since before Wednesday's Loudoun game, they were on a run. And I was like, okay, they're hot right now, so this will be a good time to face them, to test the Hounds, to see how they're actually doing. Because we did have a little bit of a false sense of security with all these goals in the last two games. Like, you kind of want to actually see how they do against a team that's hitting on all cylinders. And Oakland game, Oakland's good, but they were also a West Coast team traveling and all that entails. So it's hard to really judge those games against the West Coast teams. So going into this, I thought this would be a better test to see where we're at. And I do think we just got unlucky. I mean, we were streaky. We were not having our best game. All that's true. But I do think we should have won this game. And that, going back to the chance from, the goal that Loudoun actually got, Biasi and Dick, that was a savable chance, like a shot that felt like it just rolled in. Very disappointing.
Yeah. So as you talked about that, Josh, it kind of,
Steve, how do you?
I kind of think, as I reflect on this game and the previous two games, kind of answer that same question. That for me, it's not even the outcome of this game per se, but it's that we've played 21 games and we've got a 32 game season this year. And so we've got 11 games left. And as I look at the standings and I see how I think Josh is right. We've turned a corner. But is it enough to make up the ground that we need to make up? When you look at the table and you look at Loudoun, who's got 5 points on us and has a game in hand. And so that's kind of the thing I'm most concerned about at this stage, that this team could fall anywhere from, at this stage, right? Like, they go on a winning streak, win out. I mean, they could jump up into like middle of the playoff group, or they could end down in 11th, and I just don't know. And so because it's not just have we turned the corner, it's what does everybody else do around us, and do they keep pace with us, especially if we don't continue to win the really important games, right? I mean, in this game, I think especially dropping those points is massive, because it's an in-conference game, and not being able to pick up the win against a team that we're in contention for the playoffs with is concerning at this point in the season with where we are.
I mean, this game was against a Loudoun team that is in 8th place now because of this game. They are within the playoff, above the playoff line, and we are now sitting 2 spaces below it. So it's definitely a situation where it felt like we needed this win more than some of these other teams that are pretty high up in the standings or not in our conference. So losing this one, or not losing, but only getting a point out of this one is not great.
Yeah, and I want to keep talking about this game, but you guys have sort of touched on this point that does make me think, and this was something else I wanted to discuss. It felt like with this ramp, these 4 games at home, this was a great opportunity to turn the corner and just reset the entire season and say, okay, great, this is where we are. We're starting below the playoff line, but let's try to catch up. And it felt like we were headed in that direction. Monterey, we played really well. We still lost 1-0. Then you come out, boom, you get 5 goals. Boom, you get 3 goals. It felt like, okay, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I this game, I had all the confidence in the world that we were going to climb back up above the playoff line. I don't know how I feel after this game. And I'm curious, how do you guys feel? Like, do you feel that it's a foregone conclusion that, yes, we are definitely going to climb above the playoff line? Or do you look at those 5 points and go, there's still a lot of questions here, and I'm just not that confident? Josh, how do you feel about that?
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to get in the playoffs, but I definitely still feel like we are going to get in the playoffs. I'm relatively confident that we can still do this and we will do this. Track records and experience with just how this works. I feel like we're definitely not out of the match, or we're not, we shouldn't be wallowing quite yet. So yeah, I'm pretty confident we will be. It's not a foregone conclusion, but I'm confident we will get into the playoffs. Steve,
where you stand?
I don't know. Right. I see an easy pathway to it. And I also see, if we continue to play like we played last night against decent teams, not even the best teams that we have to play the rest of the season, if we're dropping points against teams that we are in competition for those playoff spots, that's problematic. And I guess I talked about this a few weeks ago, and every chance I've had to be on the pod in the past few weeks, that 5-0 win was great. The 3-1 win was great, but I need to see it consistently for more than 2 games to be convinced that this is a team that can go out and really put other teams under their thumb and crush them. And I'm not quite there yet. And this result kind of makes me question that a little bit more.
I'm kind of jumping ahead here a bit, but we got 7 points out of a possible 12 at home. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, is that good, bad, or meh? Josh, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say I feel pretty meh about it. But if you would have told me that, after all those, scoreless games in a row, I probably wouldn't have been too upset. And I think we had this conversation before this home streak of games where you had an over and under. I cannot remember what I said, but I'm pretty sure I wanted more than 7 points.
Steve?
Yeah. I have to logically feel good about that, right? Our points per game went way up over that stretch. And just in that stretch, our points per game was much better than our season points per game. So that's a positive thing, right? But then there's the eye test and the emotional experience of drop the first game when you played better, come out firing the next 2 games, and then can't quite find those goals again last night. And so, no, I don't feel great, but I think that this is a team that on any given day can come out and beat anybody. But I'm also concerned that this is a team that could lose to anybody.
I do not feel that way about can beat anybody. Not this year. I don't feel like we can beat anybody. I feel like we're a good enough team to be in the playoffs. But I don't feel like this is the year where I'm like, yeah, like any given day, we got this. We could go toe to toe. I don't know about
that. So I guess I'll qualify that. I think on any given day, we could beat anybody. Do I think we could beat the best teams consistently? No, I don't think that.
All right, fair enough.
Mike, what do you think?
I'm I'm torn about the whole thing, honestly. I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned. I'll put it that way. I think coming out of it, 7 points out of a possible 12. Josh, I'm with you. I'm kind of meh because again, the state that we were going into this home stretch in, it was really bad. And so to get 7 points out of a possible 12, I think you kind of have to be happy with that just from a like where we were standpoint. But in terms of, is it going to be enough for us to turn this around? We're traveling to Sacramento this weekend, and they're a really good team. And now we're an East team traveling West. It's going to be a really late game. We know how much that can disrupt things. We don't have the same kind of opportunity again to really get a whole bunch of points really quickly. And so, especially after Sacramento, and then 4 days later we travel to Detroit. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel good about things. I think that there is the potential there for us to perform, but again, it's everything but the goals. Mm-hmm. And we need people to be scoring goals from run of play. It can't be all pens. So I think I need to see more than the sample size that we've seen over the past 4 weeks to feel really good about whether or not this is a team that I feel confident in making the playoffs. Those 5 points are huge. And to dig ourselves out, we've got to beat teams above us. And this was a prime opportunity, and we let it slip. So, yeah. The red card. Okay. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. No, that was one of the 2 things I want to talk about this game still. The red card, in the heat of the moment watching this game, I was up at the top of the Steel Army section, the Paul Child stand. So I felt like I had a pretty good view. I thought it was a completely bad, terrible, no good call. But honestly, watching the replay after the fact, getting a different angle, I still think it was a soft red. Like, it should probably just been a yellow, but I do not feel nearly as like angry and have vitriol about it. Like, it made sense. I can see why he got a red for that. Stupid challenge. Should not put yourself in that situation. And it's sad because I just got done. Before the game started, we saw the lineup. I remember talking about, like, I'm glad Griffin's back in, but at the same time, it sucks because Sample is doing so good. And like, I felt like it was sad to see him not make the starting lineup. And maybe he should have maybe we could have done something where like Waldy comes out and Sample's in and Griffin, even though they don't play exactly the same position. But, knowing how good Sample has been doing, and then him getting that card, it's just like, oh, come on. So that sucks. But I do think it was probably justified. Steve, I don't know how you feel about the situation.
I still think it was really harsh. Do I think it was a dumb tackle, an aggressive tackle? Yeah, I do. I think that's easily a yellow. But I think at that position in the field, I don't think he was going for the attacker's legs at all, right? Like, he was going for the ball. He made a mess of it. And so that's why I think it's pretty harsh. And I don't think, at least on the replay, it was really hard to tell. I don't think he had studs up, right? Like, I think it's more like he hooked with the top of his shoe, right? And so all the things that for me, I'm looking for to say, yeah, that's a red. I just don't think there was enough there for me to get to that point. But I think the big question about that is like, okay, so what does the team do? No, I don't think the team appeals that, because I don't think Bob appeals red cards. And I think in the moment, from what I heard from some people in the organization, was Bob really wasn't upset with him for the tackle. Bob was upset for him after the decision was made that it was a red, that he took his time getting off the field. And right, like, Bob's like, it's done. Like, get off the field.
That's really funny.
Even with that, I don't think they appeal it.
It was just interesting because in the press release the team put out, it sort of implied that even from an organizational standpoint, that it was like a soft red, and upon further review, his foot was like facing down and he won the ball. So it just made me wonder, is this the first time that they are? I don't know if they've ever appealed a red before, but is this the first time that they might try to go for it if they're publicly saying that? I don't know. It'll be interesting to sort of see how the next few days play out and whether or not they do appeal it. But yeah. What else from this game? Anything else that you guys want to talk about as it relates to this one?
I actually got in both my points. I want to talk about the lineup and the red. So that was both the points I wanted to bring up. Yeah, it was a missed opportunity, and I think it could come back and bite us. But I'm hoping it doesn't.
Steve, anything else from you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're just. I remember a month and a half ago or so, you and Justin had the conversation about must-win games, and I think we're at the point now where, this game is not the deciding game, but the games that we've had this season are the deciding games. And so we're in that position now with 11 games left to go that you've got to win, and you've got to win a lot of them. And if you don't, you're not going to be getting into that playoff spot, even the bottom playoff spot.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it was Soccer Rabbi wrote an article recently, I'll say recently, about the fact that, especially on that 8-game streak where we were only getting one goal, that the team on the field was really struggling, but the stands were still selling out. So this was another case where we had a sellout game in this one. Not surprised. You know, Josh, you mentioned sort of the promotion for the kids, and so it's going to be a packed house. And I don't know if anything will actually change unless we start to see some of the performance in the stands drop significantly, just considering all of the expansion and things like that. So I don't know if there's necessarily a conversation to have at this point about the play on the field affecting what happens in the stands. I think there's a lot we still need to see, but I'm nervous about these next few games. And I know we're going to go to Sacramento and we're going to go to Detroit. And then I think we have 2 games back-to-back at home against Western Conference teams. So that's another opportunity to pick up some points. But Steve, to your point, we're in a place where we can't just say like these little pockets are where we need to pick up points. We need to pick up points everywhere. Otherwise, it just isn't going to happen. And so, you know, we're getting into August, which, as we know, August to October happens very quickly. And so something's got to start clicking. And here's hoping that we can. I mean, I'm hoping for at least 4 points out of these next 2 games.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how I feel about that. I mean, Josh, do you think 4 points are possible over the next 2 games?
I mean, definitely possible. I think you going to the West Coast is such a weird thing because it's a chance for you to pick up points, but at the same time, you're not stealing points from anyone that matters.
Yeah.
So you don't have the ability to swing the standings as much. You kind of just have to hope and pray that the people that you need to lose their matches, and you get your points. So I'm less concerned about that game, it being West Coast, it being a lot of travel. I'm more concerned about the Detroit game. I think you have to show up for Detroit. That's a big game. Detroit is in 6th place right now. They're not like super high up in the standings compared to us, and the point differential between us is not that great. So like stealing points from Detroit matters. Because even though Detroit's in 6th, 7th place also has 28 points, just like they do. And then 8th place has 27 points. So there's not a lot of points between them and the playoff line. So you got to steal those points. You got to try to drag someone down closer to where we are so we can leapfrog them. And that's the game you do it in. So tactical decisions, I mean, it's not my forte per se, but I definitely thought that was actually, now I think about it, that was one of the things I was going to bring up about the Loudoun game. The subs we made at the very end felt like we were making defensive subs instead of offensive subs, and they did not help us get 3 points. It was just to stem the bleeding, it felt like. And at that moment, I think it was, I don't remember what minute that was in, where we made 2 more subs. Yeah, the 84th minute. It felt like that point was like, well, let's just try to not lose this game instead of let's try to win this game. So that was disappointing in my eyes. But tactically, as far as the next 2 games, I want to see our starting lineup in Detroit. If we're not going to get it in both games, it has to be there for Detroit.
Yeah. Well, now you got me thinking about that.
Steve, what are your
In
thoughts?
a way, yeah, like Josh has got me thinking about that in a way that I don't think I kind of had been thinking. I don't know. I mean, I just don't think there was many other options. I mean, that's when right. That's when DN and Roby came in. And it's like, who else is on the bench at that point, right? I mean, you're talking about a goalkeeper, a center back, and an academy contract. So in some ways, it's just fresh legs for me. And with the 5 subs available now, right? It's like use the 5 subs when you can. And that means you're putting everybody on because you have the chance. Whereas in some ways, it kind of takes the tactics out of subs at the end of the game because it's just, you put on who you can to get fresh legs on the field.
I don't know if I feel like the other choice is not to make a sub. Like,
sure,
I don't know if DN coming in did much for us. I don't know if Rovi coming in did much for us as far as attack goes. Like Langston, he didn't have his best game, but I still think Blackstock is probably the better choice if you're trying to score a goal than bringing in Rovi, personally.
Well, and DN had an excellent opportunity to move into the box and just stood outside the 18.
That's right. Yeah. There was a couple of those moments throughout the whole game against multiple players where it just wasn't connecting.
Yeah, feels like the story of the season thus far is just not
true
connecting. Anything else that you guys want to talk about as it relates to this game or the team and sort of this current time and place that we are in?
Scary moments, scary times. It's edge on the knife's edge right now, and I feel like this season could go one or two ways, and I'm just hoping it falls in our favor. So we'll see.
Yeah, agreed. Well, everyone, that is what we think. Let us know what you think. As I mentioned, we do still have the 2024 survey that is out there. You can actually click in the description of this video if you are watching this on YouTube. I'll also put it in the show notes if you are listening to this on your podcast player of choice. I don't know if you'll be able to click the link there, but you'll at least be able to see it. You can also find it over on X or on YouTube. We will post it there as well. But please do go give us your thoughts. We do, as I said, take them to heart, and we do appreciate all the feedback, and it'll help to sort of shape the content that we're producing here. Otherwise, I think that's it for us, guys. So thank you, everyone, for either watching or listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're getting this and leave a review and give us a thumbs up. We will be back with more Riverhounds content very, very soon.
Later.
See ya.